Hi, it's Alaska Granny. I'm in Oregon. I'm visiting my daughter, and she lives in a tiny apartment in the downtown area of the city. And so even though she has a teeny apartment, it's very important to have your emergency gear. So I wanted to show you how we have it arranged in her apartment. She has it in her coat closet. There's plenty of room for her coats and her accessories, and there's also a way to keep the emergency supplies right where you need them if you need to evacuate in an emergency. So the first thing she has up here are some backpacks, and depending on what kind of an emergency it is, she can take 1, 2, or 3 of them. One of them is like a backpack for backpacking, so it's loaded up with water filters and fire starters and things like that. And then the next one is ready. If she has room to take more things, she can load up whatever she might decide she needs in a bug out situation. So below the backpacks, we have some food storage. So she has 2 of those can solidators, and they're nice because you can put everything in them, and they roll out and they keep it organized, and the freshest food is in the back and the current food is in the front. But if you try to move them, I have trouble whenever I try to move them, which isn't very often, but then they sort of fall apart. And so while I think they're a pain to set them up, she loves them, and so that's a good thing for her to have. Then we have the long-term food storage that we got from the Mormon Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This is great. I've ordered it for myself in Alaska because they'll ship for free wherever you live. So she has some rice, flour, beans, and oatmeal. So she has 4 boxes of long-term food so that if she's truly in a survival situation, she's able to take care of herself. Then in this orange bag, she has her tent and the things that she needs if she needs an emergency shelter and it's long-term, or she just wants to go camping. So she's got different bags in here, different kinds of food. There wasn't room for her water, but she's got that somewhere else. So you can see, even if you live in a teeny tiny apartment and you only have 1 or 2 closets, it is critical that you have your emergency supplies because you never know what's going to happen. And if you're in a city, you don't necessarily have the opportunity to go and collect things at another time. And so you need to have them prepared. You don't want to wait until there's an emergency and then there's something like the power goes out or your water is off and you don't even know what kind of people are running around in the city. Plus they had those Occupy movements. You don't necessarily know ahead of time, as in any situation, if it's even safe to go out of your door. So if you live in a city, it's more important even that you have some things so you can bug in if you need to in an emergency until it's safe to bug out. Oh, down here in the middle is a very important little bag. She has a pet. So she has a carrier with the supplies for the pet. So the pet's coming no matter what. So be sure you're prepared for each of your family members, whether they're human or 4-legged. Anyway, get your gear, load it up, know what you have it conveniently collected so that in an emergency you can grab and go if you need to. And then guess what? If nothing ever happens, that's good. And if you just decide to go camping, backpacking, hiking, you can still come here and grab your things and go. So get your stuff together, learn how to use it, and then you don't have to worry about what's going to happen to me in an emergency. All right, so have a great day.